Hi everyone, Grant for the Flame Learning channel. Continuing with the animation editor updates in Flame 2023, let's look at the curve functionality, the new channel color coding, and the enhanced channel filtering. When working with animation curves, there have been a few usability and feature improvements. For example, you are looking at the selected Z rotation channel of the 3D object. To select a keyframe, you simply click on it. You can move it around as expected, but one major difference is when a single keyframe is selected, its absolute values are now displayed in the keyframe controls. So you can move it gesturally on the curve, but you can also have the accuracy of numerical adjustments. If you were to select multiple keyframes with a box selection, the keyframe controls will return a relative value of 0. So you can't see the value of multiple keyframes at once, but you can adjust them relative to their original position, which is always incredibly useful. Lastly, if you were to select the channel and not the keyframes, the animation controls now say channel instead of keyframe. You also have a relative value of 0 for the whole channel, and it's easy to shift the entire curve in X and Y to adjust the animation. Now, if you don't want to work with the UI controls on the right, you can select a keyframe or channel, and all the same commands are accessible using the context menu. When it comes to selecting keyframes on a channel, you can click on one keyframe to select it, or hold Ctrl and drag a box selection over multiple keyframes to select them. You can also select all the keyframes on the curve by calling up the context menu and choosing Select All Keyframes on Channel. One common request that has been added to the selection tools is the ability to select all keyframes before or after a selected keyframe. Call up the context menu over the selected keyframe, go to the Select submenu and choose All Keyframes before or after. So these keyframes are now selected and the original keyframe has been deselected on purpose. When you make any adjustment, gesturally or using the sliders, the selected keyframes will move. The before and after functionality has also been extended to deleting keyframes. Simply right-click on a keyframe and choose to delete the keyframes before or after the selection. This removes the unwanted keyframes and you can keep the rest of the animation. The final selection tool you'll cover is the new ability to select all keyframes at the current frame. So when you call up the context menu and choose Select All Keyframes at this frame, any expanded channel that has a keyframe at this frame will be automatically selected. You will probably need to frame the selected channels, and you'll see the keyframes have been selected at the same frame. Please note that if the animation channels are not expanded in the channels list, they will not be included in this selection. This gives you a bit of control with choosing which channels are affected by this selection tool. Another useful function in Flame is the ability to color code channels in the animation editor. Like other components in Flame, you can color code channels to help you visually manage the channels, curves, and dope sheet. To assign a color, call up the context menu over the channel and choose a color. A small color tag appears next to the selected channel, and you'll also note that the keyframe and tangents have taken on the new color. You can apply this to one or a multi-selection of channels. This should make it easier to spot channels as you scroll through the list. But as an extra tip, With the new filtering in the animation editor, you can also filter by color, which you'll see in a moment. When working with lots of animation channels, filtering is an essential tool to help you keep track of all your animated channels. In Flame 2023, filtering has been redesigned to make it so much easier yet powerful to use. By default, filtering is enabled with a new user profile. So when you start working in the animation editor, you will only see animated channels. To disable filtering and show every available channel, just disable the filter button. Now that is a lot of channels. Clicking the arrow next to the filter button, you can choose to filter channels by animation or selection. What's handy to know about selection filtering is when you work on a curve, you can't accidentally deselect the curve, which would make it disappear. So you could select multiple curves to give a context and just work on one curve within the selection. It is also possible to create your own filtering by using the Set Criteria option. This launches a floating window where you can filter by one or more properties. The general rule is that the filtered channels need to match all the chosen criteria and not just one of them. You've already seen animated and selected, but you can also filter by channel name, color, expressions, and audio. For example, let's filter all the channels that contain X, Y, and Z. So you activate name, and in the advanced box, you type X, Y, and Z. You can enter multiple variables if you separate each one with a comma and no spaces. When you close the window, the channel list refreshes. Scrolling through the list, you will only see the channels containing X, Y, and Z. Now this filter is temporary, and you can turn it on or off. If you want to save this as a preset, open the Set Criteria window again and add it as a preset. The next time you open the filtering options, you will see your preset. Let's make another one. Open the Set Criteria window and choose Color as a criteria. Let's go with red, and you'll save this as a preset. When you expand all the folders, you will see that only the channels that were tagged with red will be displayed. So now it's easy to switch between the different filtering presets, and you can even do it through the context menu. Finally, you also have the option to manage the presets, where you can reorder, rename, and delete them. There is also the ability to assign a keyboard shortcut, but you would need to assign a keystroke using the Keyboard Shortcuts editor first, and then assign them to the preset in this window. Please subscribe to the Flame Learning channel and click the bell to be notified for future videos. Comments, feedback, and suggestions are always welcome and appreciated, and thanks for watching.